Let's start off with something that I heard from one of the judges, which I didn't hear when we did Bedford Falls, which is they mentioned, if you've noticed, and I find it interesting, they referred to you as being along the same vernacular as Alfred Hitchcock. How do you respond to that? Because as you know, he's primarily more the creepy horror type, but I think they mean more the film noir genre, obviously, and the way he did his filming. Would you say that would you concur that that's an accurate assessment, even to some small degree, or?
Um, First of all, that's a great compliment, and
Yes.
I'm very honored by that assessment. I feel like there's certainly the visuals and maybe the editing for the shoot that Hitchcock would do in terms of when he shot his films, there was no wasted. He had the film was assembled in his head. He shot what was going to be cut together, and then the editors only had that to work with. I shot more than I needed, but I always had an edit in my head as we were filming. I think the bigger thing, or another big thing with Hitchcock, was his use of a MacGuffin, which is this thing that's driving the plot forward. The 39 steps, the plans and Saboteur, or all of his movies had something that was the reason for the plot, but it was actually just an excuse for the actors to go through the narrative and do the story. It didn't actually serve the plot. So, for example, the Rock of Gibraltar was this thing that Deacon was after the whole movie,
Right.
and it's supposed to represent this obsessive pursuit of this material thing that his obsession ends up doing him in, and that's the greater theme of the movie. But at the end of the day, it was a good versus evil tale, and The Rock was just there to facilitate that story. And so Hitchcock, he was more interested in telling a story, but needed something, a MacGuffin to drive that story.
Sure. Oh, sure. You betcha. I'm just curious as I'm watching, I'm thinking to myself, did you smile on set? Because you're so serious. It's enough to drive a person nuts. I'm like, dude, how could you be like filming for like 27 years and you're like, okay, we have to get this. And I'd be like, oh my God, have a drink or something. So is he like this serious all the time? Because you could cut the tension with a knife.
Always.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I like to think I joke around some, but I always felt the weight of if we didn't get it shot, I was going to have to be calling these 15 people to come out and shoot in 3 months again. And I'm like, please, everybody, just please buckle down. Let's get this done, because it's already taking forever. And so I was always on edge when filming. And fortunately, like I said before, because I knew Will and Seth, I could cut loose a little bit more with them, but I tried to also maintain some professionalism when obviously interacting with everybody.
Well, certainly. Well, I was just thinking about this, and this is a good piggyback question. To those that are going to watch this panel that are maybe newbie filmmakers or even veteran filmmakers, is there such a thing as either would you condone or criticize this whole mentality that you have, which is very intense, very serious? Because when you talk like that, it almost sounds like filmmaking is more of a job instead of being jolly, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I feel a good mix is great. But let's say we have a filmmaker listening to this today. Would you recommend being you know what I mean, like on set? Or would you say, hey, maybe if I could do it again, maybe it's best this as to filmmaking?
I would definitely recommend having some lightness to a set. And I was intense when we were filming, but when it was cut, okay, good job. I mean, there were times where we'd take 5 minutes laughing at, something Will had said on accident in this, in a take, if he flubbed a line or something. I mean, there's outtakes galore. So I think there was a balance, but like I said before, as like a leader, I felt like I had to set a tone. I couldn't let it get too far out or too far away, joking around, because then guys would lose it, and then we'd be spending 15 or 20 minutes trying to recollect ourselves, and everyone was already mad that we were shooting 2 hours past when I said we were anyway. So
Sure.
So there was always a balance between having fun, and so I would encourage any filmmaker. Their personality will dictate a lot of the way they orchestrate a set. And my personality is, I think, probably a combination of ridiculousness and also intense stress. so it's a tightrope act.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Absolutely. Okay, Will, I have a question for you. Now, one of the things that I was thinking about while I was watching the movie was, had it ever occurred to you that you may have preferred to be Jason's character? For some reason, I could see where you could have swapped you now that you're not Lovely, because as you know, I respect the hell out of the part that you play. But for some reason, I feel like you and Jason could have switched and it would have worked as well. What do you think of that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, honestly, I would have done whatever Mike asked to do. I've never really thought about that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
But, yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have been the good guy. You know what I mean? The guy who like saved the day. That would have been cool. You know?
Okay. Oh,
but
okay.
But honestly, I do really like being the bad guy.
I'm telling you, I don't know what it is with you guys, because he's the same way. He's like, people remember the bad guy, and I get that, you know. Here's a good question for you. Like, I know my Michael, he talks a great deal about, you know, some people have even referred to him as, what is that term there? When you're on set and you're by yourself, it's simmering. So basically, sometimes Michael will have to go off by himself and literally ignore everybody. And I think people get an impression of that, like he's some kind of a prima donna, so to speak. So when you were getting ready to be this tough, bad, terrible tyrant, how did you mentally prepare? I mean, did you distance yourself? Did you not interact with people? What is your process to stay in character?
I mean, yeah, I would kind of distance myself and kind of stay back from the rest of the crowd. But I mean, you just gotta. I would just like mentally think, you know, what would Deacon do in this? How would Deacon act in this? What would Deacon? How would he respond to this? Whatever it was that we were doing at the time, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And a lot of times you'd have to. I mean, when you're thinking about I'm this terrible sociopath, you'd kind of chuckle to yourself and you'd have to pull yourself back and be like, I got to focus again. You know, this is. It's awesome. It's cool. It's funny. There's all these emotions, but yeah, I would just try to focus in on what would Deacon do? How would he think about this? And, how would he respond to whatever was happening around him at the time, you know?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing about your character I was thinking was, what if Deacon were standing in front of Will right now?
Mm-hmm.
What would your character think of you? You.
Oh wow, what would Deacon think of me? He'd probably think I was just a weak, just a weak person that he would just probably shoot in not too many seconds. You know what I mean? Wouldn't have any time for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I also notice, Mr. Ferris, that Deacon does not really have, why no love interest? You know, like oftentimes, like even Michael, like for instance, he had a particular character. You see blurbs of, you know, like the side person, the wife, the girlfriend, whatever. I would have thought you would have expected Deacon to have like a mere glimpse of that. Or do you feel like that might have taken away from his character?
I felt like Deacon at the end of the day was evil incarnate. And in his past, his character history, there was a girl, and it didn't work out. And there's also some spoiler alert. Potentially, he is James Thursby's dad.
Oh,
So, like, Thursby is his illegitimate son.
okay.
And so, but he's a cold-hearted killer, and he doesn't have time for emotions. And he would view loving someone as a weakness, and he has a distorted sense of reality, obviously. So in my mind, where we see him in the movie, he's at the point where love is a weakness, and he doesn't even entertain that. He's got bigger things to do.
Oh, you betcha. Okay, and back to you, Will. We talk a lot about this when we speak on a panel with actors about the acting process. And part of that, of course, is learning your lines. You have an extensive amount of lines and dialogue, clearly. So talk a bit about, especially to newbie actors that are going to listen to this, tricks of the trade. You know, some people have acronyms, things that they do. What do you do when you have that much dialogue and it's spread out so much? You're not just shooting in like a week or 2 weeks. You're talking about a span of years here.
Sure.
So how did you balance retention of all of that?
I mean, honestly, I would get the lines, and Mike knew that I would get the lines, and it would be more of a template than a specific. I mean, there would be specific lines that he'd want me to say,
Sure.
but I would kind of just go with it, almost an improv type thing. It would change, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It would change up a little bit. I probably could have memorized lines specifically how he wanted them written, but he didn't write the character that way so much as you got to say this. He would basically say, I want you to say A, B, and C, and then fill, you know what I mean? And just fill in the rest of this with this, this, and this. You see what I'm saying? And then I just kind of went with it, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure. It does, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I also noticed that Jason's character, before I get to the line question with him, here's my other question for you. I sense in some ways, and I don't know if this is just my interpretation or if you wanted it this way, Michael, Jason's character has some form of adoration for Deacon's character. I mean, not like a I adore you, you're lovely sort of thing, but in some way he respects him for who he is. Would that be correct, or am I just not seeing it?
I think that all great villain-hero relationships, there is a mutual respect, and that there is a yin and a yang. The scene in the car where they have their confrontation, Deacon's looking in the mirror. That was basically I used Raiders of the Lost Ark, the scene where Belloc and Indiana Jones are in a restaurant having their we're not too different, you and I, basically that whole trope. We're the same. I'm a shadowy reflection of you. And then he's saved by the little kids in the scene. But that was kind of my template for that. I needed this meeting where you kind of see these two, as much as Jason hates him, and he does hate him, he's still asking for permission from the father to get the go ahead on killing him. There is a mutual respect there, and you know, Deacon says as much. I got a lot of respect for you, but if you think, you know, you're gonna get away with not getting that rock, then you got another thing coming. And Jason even through the end, Bradford even to the end is gonna try to arrest him. Because he's going to take the moral high ground, and there's still, you know, he ultimately his hand is forced as Deacon pulls out that knife, but there's definitely mutual respect between the two.
I gotcha. Okay. This just popped into my head, so I'm going to throw it out there because of the world and the climate we're living in right now. Let's say Michael Ferris had to film this tomorrow with the circumstances that are going on right now. Would that even be possible? And I bring this up for a good reason. There's a lot of filmmakers we've had over the last few days that are really questioning, when can we go back to set? Because I know that you're in a different state than us. When can we work? How can we work? You know, you have a lot of physical interaction. You've got a lot of, you know, extras on set. You've got all sorts of locations. Would it even work right now? So if somebody's trying to pull off what you've done, can they even do that in this climate now?
If they try to do it exactly as we did it, they'd probably be all right, because hopefully in a year this will be over, and it took us 6 years. So, you know, but that's kind of a joke. But if we had 4 weeks to make it, a shoot schedule daily, which is what I would do if I could do it, and everyone could take off work, etc. The answer is no right now, and it's because the Screen Actors Guild has set their standards for, you know, daily COVID testing, and you've got to follow all these parameters. A lot of the people that are in our production, you know, they're basically you're asking people. You would be asking the actors, are you okay with exposing yourself to a group of people first and foremost? One thing with this movie was I was trying to get as many extras in scenes as we could.
Sure.
And like the next movie we make, or that I'm writing, I want extras in the backgrounds, and I'm like, I can't do that right now because I'm not going to be able to get people to come out to this and, you know, sit in the background. The short answer is no, I couldn't make it today. And I look forward to, hopefully, you know, my plan is to try to shoot something like that in spring. But just who knows?
Now, are you going to become one of those directors? Because we have mutual friends, both of us here, that once they get set with a particular cast, they use them again and again and again because they know their effectiveness and their engagement and their ability to be able to bring things to the table. So do you feel that you'll be kind of a serial sort of same cast, same cast, same cast, which there's nothing wrong with? I'm just curious.
I have, I do. And then of course, if I meet someone or network with someone who is like a Michael, who, I know that, I've seen their body work and they're available, then absolutely. But as you said, it's easy. I know I've worked with Will. I know what it's like working with him. And I know that if I write something, what he's capable of doing, and that goes for the other folks in the movie. And so, I mean, that's an easy justification for working with someone again when there's a level of comfort and expectation of what they're capable of.
You betcha. Are they as intense in person as they seem to be like right here, right now, scaring me?
No,
So
not
serious.
at all. No.
I'm like
Seth?
scared of these dudes, man. Like seriously, it's like when he gets that look and he's just like intense, like he's the Momo look. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not even looking at him. But no, seriously, some people just come across as like very intense, but then when you meet him, they're like sweet and lovely and all that stuff. But
yeah,
maybe
we're
you're
not
just
intense.
attracted to like scary people.
We're not intense at all.
Have you met you? I mean,
Yeah,
have you watched yourself?
We're laid back. We're very laid back. We really are.
Well, you all are from that great state of Arkansas. So I have to ask before we have Seth questions, how are things and how are you guys managing? Because here in Wisconsin, things are a little more liberal, but, with the election, things are like blowing up, this, that, and the other thing. And, it's tough. So how are things over there?
Everybody's trying to go back to normal. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And we have a Republican governor and I think it's like any other, when you look at COVID and you look at the party lines, there's definitely a party line. And I think we're as any of other typical Republican governor state, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be as business as usual as can and trying to avoid the rising cases and keeping school going and just hoping that it works out. And then we'll see what happens in the next 2 weeks. That's really how it is.
Have you guys had a lot of the, the protesting or the riots and things like that?
Not a ton. We had in Bentonville, where I live. That's the home office of Walmart. That's where Walmart is. We had a couple protests there. They've removed. We had a Confederate statue downtown. They've removed that. But it wasn't like a big. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a big stink. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
The quorum court said, "Yeah, we're gonna move it. We'll move it to this place over here. People can enjoy it over here. We'll move it from the square." And it was pretty. I mean, Arkansas has been pretty peaceful as far as the protests have gone. You know what I mean? And you have to understand Arkansas. When you say Bentonville and Northwest Arkansas, it's entirely different from the rest of the state. You see you know what I mean?
I do.
There's a lot of people that come from out of state that work here with Walmart and their vendors and whatnot. And it's not really Arkansan, so to speak. There's more folks from Wisconsin. You know what I'm saying? Bigger city, bigger states. They all relocate down here, and it's just different. But Arkansas as a whole has been pretty laid back about it. Yeah, lucky. However you want to describe it.
Oh, you betcha. Compared to the New Yorks of the world here,
yeah.
Our New York has been hit very hard and continues to get harder and harder and harder and harder. It's tough for those of us, this is a New York festival, so we have to really kind of amp a bit and think about where we want to go and what's going to happen in the future. It's kind of scary. So we'll see. Okay, Mr. Stas, first question for you is, tell us a bit about yourself, because I don't know a whole lot about you, meaning have you been a professional actor or a convert, or how did you, tell me the bigger picture of Seth.
No, I've never acted before I did this movie. I think I told Will, because I knew Will had done a few other movies with Michael before, and I think I finally was getting a little jealous about it and said, "Hey, how about throwing me in a movie?" So I think Ferris took a chance on me when his original screenplay or whatever script or whatever he had.
Mhm.
I remember doing something with him on that, and then he completely kind of changed the movie, and then I ended up getting a larger part. So the whole thing's been well, it took a while, but it was difficult schedule. I guess it can be difficult scheduling people in when the acting's not their full-time job. So
Oh, yeah.
it took a while, but it was fun actually filming. And when you're actually filming and watching for me, watching the movie, the parts I'm not in is what's really fun for me, because it's kind of weird to watch yourself acting. But I enjoyed the rest of it's fun to watch the part of the movie that you weren't in on, or that you didn't see those scenes being shot.
Oh, sure.
So,
Set life
yeah.
could be very interesting. So you had no apprehension or angst or anything? I mean, you weren't panicked at all about just jumping into this big pool? Because acting, I'm told, can be, immensely intense if you're first starting out, and especially with a big production.
Yeah, there was time. I mean, there was general anxiety as far as I didn't want to screw up my lines and waste people's time. You know what I mean? I didn't want to look like I didn't want to come across like I didn't care or I wasn't committed. So yeah, I think there's a certain level of just general anxiety to try to do the best job that you can and not waste people's time. So.
And he picked you for the role, or you picked your own role, or how did that all come together?
He picked me for the role.
Huh. And were you satisfied with that? I mean, that's what you wanted to play. I suppose he didn't give you an array to be able to select from.
No, I was satisfied with it. I mean, there were times where I wonder this about people in movies, certain scenes where I wasn't happy that something was going to happen to me, but that's I don't want Will demasculating me on the screen, but that's part of the role. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing.
Now, this one's for both Will and Seth, of course. As to the actor part, when you looked at the final product for the very first time, or second or 10th time, are you pleased that he chose the black and white backdrop and not did this in color, or would you have liked to have seen it in color?
I like the black and white.
You do?
It kind of takes the ugly out, and so to speak. I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? I think it looked really good. You know what I mean? I thought it was a good choice.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it in color also, but I mean, I could go either way.
Unfortunately, I shot it in black and white so that I could never show it in color, because I didn't want the choice of being able to show it in color. Also, I will make a case that the black and white adds a veneer of suspension of disbelief that would not be present with color.
Mhm.
I think if it was in color, you would be able to tell that it was a cheaper movie than it appears.
Gotcha. Okay, there goes my question, because I was going to ask you and say, hey, would you ever consider just doing a color? Because, back in the day, some of our black and white movies now, they've converted over to color, and not all of them look terrible.
If I had the money, I would love to have someone restore this movie to where it appeared like, a Technicolor, a restored 50s movie or 40s movie, So I would tell them I would rather have someone digitally color it than just the original coloring, because I think that would be cool. The aesthetic of a colorized black and white movie is different than a shot in color movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'd be interesting to see our movie colorized by, the people that colorized the old movies.
Absolutely. Now, this one is a tech question, because I'm assuming that most people that watch this movie, we're all kind of fascinated. And in fact, Michael, you could chime in on this one too. When there are things such as weapons involved, you're shooting guns, etc., that sort of good stuff. Talk to us a bit about the tech stuff and how hard it is for the filmmaker to create that. And then on the actor side of the fence, when you're being asked to hold a weapon, like he's held guns and knives and things like that before, does it trip you up in terms of, you know what I mean? It's already hard enough to stay in that mode and be the actor. Now you're having to balance the correct shot when you hit someone, when you shoot something. Talk a bit about the technicalities of that. And Michael, if you could join in, that'd be great.
As far as the technical aspect goes, I found a place that manufactures stage prop blank firing guns. They're glorified cap guns. So none of the weapons that we used were actually real firearms that were capable of shooting projectiles, except the Tommy gun.
Yeah.
And so when he was shooting the Tommy gun, I set up the camera and hit record and then ran out of the way. And he actually shot part of the tripod in one of the shots. And he was like, this goes against everything I've ever learned about gun safety. As I was setting up the camera directly in front of him, I'm just like, point the gun down. Okay. Let me set up the camera. And, but all the others, they had an orange tip in the barrel, and I painted them black. When we tried to film at the courthouse, there was a 10 or 15 minute delay while the officers were inspecting the revolver, like trying to make sure it was fake. And I was like, just look down the barrel. It's plugged. And so finally Seth told him, look at it. And they're like, oh, okay. But they were concerned that I was smuggling in a real firearm, for this courtroom shoot. But all the actors, their first exposure to it was like, the apprehension. Don't point that at me. But there was once everyone knew, okay, these are glorified cap guns. I think there was a lot more.
I'll tell you what, I was super uncomfortable during any kind of. I don't like even though I know there's no bullet in it, or if it was a cap gun. There's just something very unsettling about somebody having a gun next to your head trying to film something for 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Well, that means you were in the moment, Seth, right? Really feeling it. If people too much, sometimes, they know it's a prop, and that too much of that seeps in, and you lose that fear. Right. I mean, anybody so much has been punched in the face in their lives, you just know that feeling where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get hurt here. But just my 2 cents. Yeah, you got to have a kind of a sense of the real thing, whether it's just the heft of a weapon, I think is really essential. It can be fake, that's fine. But one time between you and me and whoever's out there, the prop I was handed on a very low budget, modest movie was so flimsy that I snuck in my own prop, which happened to be the real thing.
Oh my God.
Completely checked out.
Don't want to know that. Not going to bed.
Completely checked out and all. I didn't bother to tell anybody because some people would have freaked out, but it just added such a reaction. And everybody's like, oh my God, that looks so authentic. I'm like, yeah, doesn't it? It's really.
Is this normal?
That's funny.
No.
So the other thing too is since he's talking, you should just throw this out there. I see, he has a character where literally he gets shot in the back of the head. So the bartender, I can't. So someone shoots him in the back of the head, and so that it's back here. So it's always the blonde, of course, not the brunette, but again, with the technicalities of that, I can imagine that's got to feel weird when it's going to hit, like over and over and over again. Somebody's going to be shooting at the back of your head, right?
What's the question?
Well, the question is how do you mentally prepare for that? Because it's not just the physical part of the whatever shoot, because I don't know how you set that up. But then how do you get yourself prepared? Like, how do you know when it's coming so you know when to move your head, when you need to do what you need to do?
I guess we sort of step in here again, guys, because it's your moment. But just when you're doing, it's more of a practical effect kind of a thing, a little explosion for the exit wound and all that. It's very technical, just 3, 2, 1. And your job is just to look like, at the critical moment. So it really is just a matter of 1, 2, bam, and then you're done.
Just like that.
That's how Will got shot at the end of the movie. It was like the one time that our blood shooter worked, thank goodness. And we shot chocolate syrup all over like 3 old planes and had to wipe the wings after the shot was done. But it was a 3, 2, 1, and Will looked surprised, like he just got his head shot off, and it was a 2-second shot, but he nailed it.
It worked.
Also, Seth actually had the Tommy gun was real, but when Seth had the double-barreled shotgun pointed at him,
yes,
that was a real gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see how Seth would feel a little apprehensive with that, because Thursby was really pointing a gun at him 6 inches from his head. The rifles in that scene were real.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
we really shot him off.
And Chris really shot the shotgun at the ground.
Yeah.
When I set up the camera that time and walked away. And
Yeah.
there was nobody
I gotcha.
behind the camera.
Right.
Thank goodness.
This question's for all of you. I know that at one point in time a while back, I have knowledge that apparently someone had asked you to alter the film, meaning by that, do an edit, make it, and take it down from the original length down to 90 minutes. So now, with the 90-minute version, do you see a difference? Meaning, are you happy with using the 90 minutes? Would you still stick with the whole elongated movie? You know what I mean? Because tell everybody what the original runtime is.
So the original movie was an hour 54. The current cut is about 89 minutes, 89 and a half minutes. And this version, the 89-minute version, is significantly better. It's more streamlined. I view it. So first of all, I am thankful for the opportunity to have had the chance to edit it. When I submitted it, it was essentially, I cut a bunch of stuff out of the movie.
Sure.
But the hour 54 cut was like, I finished the edit on the 15th, and I sent it to festivals on the 16th. There was no Stephen King 6 weeks of sitting with this material and just like waiting to see if maybe I need to cut some more. And as the months went on, I'd watch it with family and friends, and I'd think, there's some tweaks I need to make, but there was no impetus to have to. And then when I got the opportunity to go and cut it again, I made the changes that I knew I wanted to make, and then I start going through every scene, and I'm saying, okay, what lines can I cut here? What lines can I cut there? And it flows better. I described it to Will's wife because she was curious what all I cut, because she didn't see the longer version. I describe it as, like the hour 54 was the Steinbeck version, like me trying to be expressive and show all these character motivations and everything. And then this cut is just a hard-boiled crime thriller, bam, 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 bam version with all the fat stripped away.
This is good. I'm so glad to hear that. Believe it or not, since I was the one who told him to do that, and I felt so badly. I had said that to Michael too. I'm like, I can't tell you how hard it is to have to tell a filmmaker who has spent years of their life, and you have a judge that comes along and says, yeah, no, you're going to have to do this and this and this. It's really hard, because I'm a writer too. So if somebody comes to me and says, you're going to have to cut all this, I'm like, yeah, no, whatever. But you were very gracious about it. And I think it worked very well. The judges also think it worked very well. I have to tell you that my judges were most impressed. It's always kind of the same with your movie, which is just the grade of it, the casting, the storyline is one thing that they admire so much. Will's character gets a lot of recognition, but in this case, for my festival, it really was an overall love and appreciation for everybody, the dynamics and the dichotomies of all of the different relationships. They like Jason quite a bit. I'm a Jason fan, It makes me sad I never get to see him on these panels. Not that I don't give you all love, okay, but where's the Jason? Okay, I'm like, he's another one that's imaginary, that maybe he'll shine.
Jason, I think, is a little bit more shy with the Q&A stuff.
Oh my God. Did you hear that? Shy with the Q&A.
I don't know how. He just headlined a movie, but.
I was going to say, if only you people knew how hard it is for me to just do this. I'm like, oh my God. He'll tell you the amount of prep work that comes along with putting Cindy in front of a camera. I'm like, I'm a hot mess. I can't do this. In fact, you actors can give me a good suggestion if you would. I wrote a stage show for my bad guy. So that he and I could actually perform together. I am not an actress, despite his constantly saying, I am. I'm not trained. So I have like 2 minutes on stage with him where I'm kind of his side whore, so to speak, because he's an Italian gangster. And I wrote myself that way on purpose, but I'm like, okay. So any good suggestion? Because, film and theater are a little bit different, but acting is also acting. So if there's a quick 30-second suggestion you can give me, because it's not just that I'm performing on stage, I'm performing in front of a veteran award-winning actor. So there's no room for being secondary. You know what I mean? You have to be on and as good as him.
God, alcohol.
Oh my God, I'm not going on drunk. But no.
There were several scenes I was drunk in that movie.
Oh my God.
Which is why I was even more apprehensive about gun scenes, because those guys.
Oh my God.
I'm like, can we have some safety protocol and make sure there's no ammunition, live ammunition?
Oh no, I get it. I do. I think it's just more, I think there's a lot of fear for any actor, you know, even when you're first starting out, or like he tells me, veteran actors sometimes, even just because they're comfortable with the camera doesn't mean they can bring it every single second.
Yeah.
So of course, it's always important to have your best game on. I don't want to forget to ask this question. As of today, how much recognition, awards, etc., has the cast gotten or the film gotten to date so far?
Will actually just got nominated for Best Supporting Actor in the Indie Film Gathering Film Festival. It's in Ohio, and that'll take place next spring. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that was
Very
cool, yeah.
happy for him, and he deserves it. And in that same film festival, we won the top award in the crime genre category for the movie. And then we got the Audience Choice Award in the Made in Arkansas Film Festival. So there was voting for that, and everyone who watched that festival seemed to like our movie a lot. So we're really excited about all of that.
Absolutely. So the question is, are you going to the awards night tomorrow?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
All of you or selected members? I'm trying so hard not to give it away.
Me, Will, Seth, Chris Bell might be there, and I'll see about old Jason.
Oh, come on, let's get Jason.
We might be able to pull him out of the shadows.
We got celebrity presenters going on tomorrow night. We have a whole lot of, I don't know what I'm going to say yet. I have to figure that out tonight, as a matter of fact. But most importantly, this is what I want to tell you guys, because time is running short. And of course, I could talk to you all day, which, you know, now that you've, well, Will doesn't scare me as much anymore, which is a good thing. But the judges overall, again, not surprisingly, you did amazingly well score-wise, and not just with the overall film, with your actors and with the presentation. Cinematography, surprisingly, wasn't the number one in my festival this year for you. It really was more about the writing and the casting, which is nice to hear, obviously. I'm glad that you're coming to the awards, because you should. And I'm so excited because there's more than but I can't tell you any of that. I can't. I'm not supposed to say any of that. But no, I think I've told you this before. The most impressive thing about you, Mr. Ferris, is that you have been probably one of the most gracious and grateful filmmakers that I've had the pleasure to meet since our festival. I don't want to speak for Michael unless he wants me to. Bedford Falls was extremely blessed to have this contribution, and I'm very grateful that it allowed you to bring me to Art is Alive. I hope you'll continue to keep screening with me. I know I say tongue-in-cheek all the time. I would love for you to work with my Michael, not because he's just my Michael, but because he is that good, and because I don't trust everyone with him, and I trust you. And that's a very big component for me. And lastly, I'm just proud of all the work that you've done, and I can't tell you on a personal note, you have been very, very kind, and at moments that I have been crying and struggling, there's Michael Ferris popping up in my window. So before I start to cry, because now I get to be a girl for a second,
well,
it means a great deal.
Thank you for those kind words and your continued encouragement, and applaud you and all your efforts from Bedford Falls through to Art is Alive. It's certainly not easy to begin with, but then you throw in everything that's been going on, and I can't imagine it.
Hello? Yeah. I'm at wine at 2:30 already. I'm like ready to have my first glass. It's been nuts. It's hard to balance. You know, I wanted this to be live and virtual. Then we lost 2 platforms. Then the internet went out the other day. Now my child has an issue. You know, it's just one thing after another. And when you're the sole founder, everything falls on me. You know, Michael's here, but he's the tech stuff. I'm everything else. And then keeping on track. So you know what? It's a whole lot. So the last thing I want to say to you folks is, if you can manage and you're free later, Michael is screening at 6 o'clock tonight. We pushed it back 30 minutes. So the block is at 6 o'clock tonight. He has House Arrest Rooney's. And tomorrow, if you want to really watch him disturb me and be morose and macabre, he's got a screening tomorrow called Whispering Hollow Road. I'm telling you, just watch it. You'll see. I don't even have to say any more than that. But on that note, I have to move off to my next block. I cannot thank all of you enough for giving me so much time. I'll get you a copy of the edited panel when we get done. Please enjoy the day. Please come back, spend it with us, whatever have you, and all that good stuff. But thank you so much for everything.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Be good.